Hey, what's going on, guys? The Horror Man back with the next review of the Terror in the Aisles challenge. This time, Jason and I watched Halloween. It was the boogeyman. Halloween, as you know, is a 1978 horror film, directed by John Carpenter. He also wrote the screenplay along with Deborah Hill. It's no surprise that Halloween is heavily featured in Terror in the Aisles. After all, this is objectively one of the greatest horror films ever made. Maybe even the greatest. I've heard people call it the perfect film. Nothing is truly perfect, though, right? Even still, John Carpenter's Halloween comes pretty damn close. You all know the story. 6-year-old Michael Myers kills his sister Judith on Halloween night. He's institutionalized under the care of Dr. Samuel Loomis. And then, 15 years later, he escapes. Michael returns home to Haddonfield, to the house where he lived, the house where he killed his sister. It's Halloween, and Michael will kill again. He begins stalking 3 teenage girls, including Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis in her very first role. Laurie and her best friend Annie will be babysitting across the street from each other that night. Annie is babysitting Lindsay Wallace, and Laurie is babysitting Tommy Doyle. Meanwhile, Dr. Loomis has also arrived in Haddonfield to warn the town of the evil that has returned. He's trying to find Michael before Michael kills again. As he continues the body count he began when he was 6 years old, no one is safe on Halloween. I'm sure we've all seen a million reviews on John Carpenter's Halloween, so I'm going to do something a little different with this video. I'm going to focus on the Annie theory, or let's call it the Annie angle, because alliteration is fun. The Annie angle is exactly that, a focus on Annie. We all know Laurie Strode is the final girl in Halloween, and no one is refuting that. What I think a lot of people don't realize, though, is she's not actually Michael's prime target. The sequels have conditioned us to believe otherwise, but looking at this movie as a standalone, Michael was never specifically after Laurie. If anything, Annie was his main target. Remember, when this film was written, Michael and Laurie were not related. Carpenter never intended for them to be, and he intended for Halloween to be a standalone film. It wasn't until he got drunk and wrote the sequel that he created the sibling storyline. In the original Halloween, Laurie is just a babysitter. She just happens to be the one to survive. That's the difference. Final girls are not always intended targets. Some just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is exactly the case with Laurie Strode. Had she not dropped off the key at the Myers place, who knows if Michael would have ever even noticed her. Even after that, he follows her a bit, but he also stalks Annie and even Linda. People might ask, well, why does Laurie see him outside the school when she's looking out the window? Well, I say, how does Michael even know she's in the school sitting next to the window? I mean, I guess he can assume she's in the school, but he has no idea what classroom she's in or where she sits. Plus, even though she can see him out the window from that distance, there's no way he can distinguish her from outside. Michael is simply stalking the school, probably in regards to a memory he had of his sister Judith going there. Because remember, ultimately we learn that's Michael's true intention, to recreate that graveyard scene. He had already stolen Judith's gravestone at this point. Now he just needed someone who maybe reminded him of Judith to display in front of it. We find out later on that it's not Laurie, it's Annie. Later on, when Michael is driving down the street and they say, "Hey, isn't that Devon Graham?" Michael doesn't stop until Annie yells. When she screams, "Speed kills," Michael stops short. Then slowly, he continues on his way. When Laurie sees him behind the bush, she's walking with Annie. But when Annie looks, Michael is gone. If you're stalking someone, wouldn't the intention be for them not to see you? Michael seems to take no issue with Laurie seeing him, but hides when Annie looks his way. That brings us to the scene when Laurie is looking out her bedroom window. She sees Michael standing in the yard, but not her yard. He's actually standing in the yard between Laurie's house and Annie's house, it seems. Could this mean he was possibly just stalking Annie prior to Laurie spotting him? And again, I'm not saying he doesn't stalk Laurie too, but she's not his prime target. Annie picks up Laurie and they drive by the department store, where we learn Michael had broken into. They chat with Sheriff Brackett for a bit and head to the houses to babysit. Remember, Lindsay Wallace's house is across the street from Tommy Doyle's. We see that Michael is following them the whole way. But when Annie drops off Laurie at the Doyle house, Michael continues to follow Annie over to the Wallaces. He doesn't even seem to think twice about following Laurie. From here we have probably the longest and best stalking scene in the movie, when Michael stalks Annie outside the Wallace house. He stalks her outside the kitchen and even kills Lester the dog to keep him quiet. He then stalks Annie outside the laundry room, and then ultimately he hides in the back seat of her car so he can kill her. Tommy Doyle then spots Michael carrying Annie's lifeless body from around the house. Not long after, Linda and her boyfriend Bob show up at the Wallace's house to have sex. They appear to interrupt Michael's work. Michael sees them in the house and has no choice but to kill them too. Can I just say, I love that Michael puts on the sheet. It's funny to picture him cutting the holes out for eyes, and then putting on Bob's glasses over it. See anything you like? At this point, again, it seems that Michael's only intended target was Annie. Linda and Bob were killed for simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Can't we say the same for Laurie when she walks over to the Wallace house? Michael doesn't come to the Doyle house looking for her. She goes to the Wallace house looking for Annie and Linda. When she finds Michael's display of Annie in front of Judith's gravestone, Michael has no choice but to go after her too. I'm sure there is stuff I missed, but that's the gist of the Annie angle. Michael never cared one way or another about Laurie. It was Annie he was after. The new timeline, by the way, featuring Halloween, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends, confirms this. Michael was never intentionally after Laurie. It was never about her. They specifically say this in Halloween Kills. Laurie was more obsessed with Michael over the years than he was with her. Remember, this is all based on John Carpenter's Halloween as a standalone. Once you add in Halloween 2 from 1981, everything changes. Or does it? You tell me. I know that wasn't much of a review, but like I said, I'm sure you've seen millions of Halloween reviews. So I'll just say this. I love John Carpenter's Halloween. There's your review. And my relatable recommendation is Halloween Night. Halloween Night is a 2006 slasher film and blatant Halloween ripoff. There have been many Halloween ripoffs over the years. After all, it's one of the most influential horror films of all time. Halloween Night, though, is one of my favorites and one of the most obscure. It's literally about a boy who was sent away to an asylum after his family was killed. 10 years later, he returns home on Halloween night. There's a Halloween party being thrown at his old house, and he picks off the guests one by one. Even the cover art of Halloween Night is a blatant ripoff of the cover art of Halloween. It's definitely a ripoff, but it's awesome. And speaking of the Halloween cover art, there are still some people who don't realize there's a face hidden in the hand on the cover. That's such a nice touch. This here is a media VHS release of Halloween. What are your thoughts on the Annie angle in Halloween? Comment below and let me know. And please be sure to check out Jason's review, which I'm sure will actually be a review. It was the Boogeyman. No, it was the Horror Man with this review. And Jason and I will be back with another one for the Terror in the Aisles challenge soon. Until then, thanks for watching, guys. Hit that thumbs up and be kind, subscribe.